If life has ever made you feel like you've hit a wall, an invisible barrier that stands between who you are and who you dream of becoming, then this story is for you. The wall isn't just about bricks and stone. It's about the walls we build inside ourselves: fear, doubt, failure, and the courage it takes to break through them. Stay till the end, because this story might just remind you why giving up is never an option. If you believe in growth, hope, and second chances, hit subscribe and become part of a community that never stops climbing. The first time Daniel saw the wall, he was only 10 years old. It wasn't an ordinary wall. It stretched for miles across the countryside, a massive gray structure that divided the small town of Grayfield from the endless forest beyond. The townsfolk said it was ancient, built long before their grandparents were born. To Daniel, it looked alive, cold, stubborn, and unbreakable. Every morning on his way to school, he'd stop by it, press his little palms against the rough stone, and whisper, "Someday, I'll see what's on the other side." The other kids laughed. "No one crosses the wall," they'd say. "It's impossible." But Daniel didn't believe in impossible. Not yet. His father worked at the steel factory, coming home every night with tired eyes and hands covered in dust. His mother worked double shifts at the diner. Life was simple, hard, and repetitive. Dreams were luxuries in Grayfield. People didn't chase them, they learned to live without them. But Daniel was different. He had a mind full of questions and a heart full of restlessness. When his teacher asked what he wanted to be when he grew up, he said, "Someone who breaks walls." The class laughed again, but this time, he didn't care. The wall had already begun its silent conversation with him. It wasn't an obstacle, it was a challenge. As years passed, Daniel's curiosity turned into obsession. He read books about explorers, inventors, and scientists. He built small machines out of scrap metal and old parts from the factory's junkyard. His father would shake his head. "Dreams don't feed you, son. Work does." But Daniel couldn't stop. There was a voice inside him that kept whispering, "There's more beyond the wall." When he turned 16, he began to sketch out a plan: a climbing harness, pulleys, ropes. He'd been saving up coins and small wages from odd jobs. He didn't tell anyone, but every night before sleeping, he'd stare at his drawings, imagining the moment he'd finally rise above the gray stone barrier that defined his town's limits. Then came the stormy night that changed everything. Daniel's father had an accident at the factory, a fall that broke his leg and left him unable to work. The small income that kept them afloat vanished overnight. His mother tried her best, taking every shift she could, but it wasn't enough. The wall that Daniel had dreamed of climbing suddenly turned into something else, a wall of responsibility. He dropped out of school to help. He took his father's place at the factory, working long, grueling hours under the weight of machines and men twice his age. His hands bled, his back ached, and every evening when he passed by the wall, he would stop and look at it, not with wonder now, but with resentment. Life had built a new wall inside him, one made of sacrifice and silence. Years rolled by. Daniel became a man, strong but weary. He learned discipline, patience, and endurance. The factory became his life. The dreams he once had grew distant, like forgotten music. But deep inside, something refused to die. Sometimes, during his lunch break, he'd climb to the factory's rooftop and stare at the horizon, imagining what lay beyond that eternal gray line. He'd see birds flying freely over it, and he'd whisper, "Someday." One winter morning, an engineer named Mr. Hale visited the factory to install new equipment. He noticed Daniel's skill with machines and asked, "Ever thought about studying engineering?" Daniel laughed. "Can't afford it. I've got a family to feed." Mr. Hale looked at him thoughtfully. "Then learn after work. There's a technical night school in the city. It's not easy, but if you've got the fire, it's possible." That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. The idea of learning again, of chasing the version of himself he once believed in, lit something inside him. He enrolled in the night school the following week. His routine became brutal: 12 hours at the factory, then 3 hours of classes, then back home to sleep for 4 hours before it all began again. Many nights, he thought about quitting. His father, now older and weaker, would tell him, "You don't owe the world anything, son." But Daniel wasn't doing it for the world. He was doing it for that 10-year-old boy who once promised himself he'd climb the wall. The struggle was immense. His grades were poor at first. His body was constantly exhausted. He'd sit in class with calloused hands and drooping eyelids, surrounded by younger students who looked at him like he didn't belong. But every failure became fuel. He'd go home and study harder, rebuild his notes, redo his projects. Slowly, his scores began to rise. Teachers began to notice. One even told him, "Daniel, you're proof that persistence can outwork talent." That single sentence became his anchor. Years passed again. Daniel graduated with honors at the age of 33. He was offered a junior engineer position in the city. Leaving Grayfield wasn't easy. The town, the factory, the wall, they were all pieces of who he was. On his last day, he walked to the wall one final time. It looked the same as it always had, tall and silent. He placed his hand on it and whispered, "You taught me everything." Then he turned away and stepped toward a new life. City life was another wall altogether. Daniel faced rejection after rejection. Every company wanted someone younger, someone with experience. He lived in a small rented room, surviving on savings and small repair jobs. There were moments of deep despair when he wondered if all his efforts had been for nothing. One night, after yet another rejection email, he sat on his bed and cried, not out of weakness but release. He realized the wall wasn't just outside, it was inside him, the fear of not being enough, the guilt of leaving home, the weight of constant struggle. That night, he made a decision. He would build something that mattered, with or without anyone's approval. He began freelancing, designing small mechanical tools and parts for local shops. His designs were efficient, innovative, and built with the same determination that once drove him to dream. Word spread. Within a year, he had more clients than he could handle. He opened a small workshop and called it Beyond the Wall Engineering. It was more than a business, it was a statement. One afternoon, a young man from Grayfield showed up at his workshop. "Are you Daniel Reed?" he asked. "My teacher said you used to work at the factory. I want to learn from you." Daniel smiled. He saw himself in that boy, curious, hopeful, stubborn. He agreed to mentor him. Soon, more young people started visiting. Some came to learn, others came just to listen. Daniel began hosting free weekend sessions, teaching them how to repair, build, and innovate. For the first time, he wasn't climbing anymore, he was helping others climb. But life wasn't done testing him. When he was 42, a fire broke out in the workshop due to a faulty circuit. Everything burned: machines, tools, designs, memories. He stood there watching his dream collapse in flames. The same factory men who once doubted him came to help, but the loss was massive. Insurance didn't cover it all. For a moment, he considered giving up. But then he remembered the wall. The one that taught him patience. The one that stood for resistance, not defeat. He started over from nothing. Borrowed equipment, sleepless nights, and relentless effort. The community rallied behind him. Former students volunteered to rebuild the workshop. Within 6 months, Beyond the Wall reopened, stronger than before. It became not just a workshop but a training center for underprivileged youth. Daniel's story began to spread online, a tale of grit, perseverance, and rebirth. News outlets covered it, calling him the man who built Beyond the Wall. He didn't like the fame, but he loved the message it carried. At 50, Daniel finally visited Grayfield again. His father had passed away years ago, and his mother was old but proud. As he walked the familiar roads, children ran past him laughing. The factory still stood, the smoke rising as it always had. And there it was, the wall. Older now, cracked, overgrown with moss. Daniel walked up to it, touched its surface, and smiled. He realized something profound: it had never been about crossing it. The real journey was about becoming the kind of person who no longer needed to. Standing there, he whispered, "Thank you." The wall didn't reply, but in the quiet wind that brushed against his face, he felt the same old challenge, softened now into acceptance. Life had built walls to test him, break him, rebuild him, and in doing so, had turned him into something stronger than stone, a man who never stopped trying. As the sun set, painting the sky in gold and crimson, Daniel turned to leave. Behind him stood the wall that once defined his limits. Ahead of him stretched a horizon that promised infinite possibilities. And in that moment, he understood. The only walls that truly matter are the ones we choose to break within ourselves. If Daniel's journey through struggle and perseverance moved you, remember this: every wall you face in life has two sides, one of fear and one of growth. The choice is yours which side you'll stand on. If you believe in stories that inspire courage and remind you that no wall is too high, hit subscribe, share this story, and join a movement that builds bridges where walls once stood. Dash dash dash.